Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Adi, and today we have another team report from Orlando Regionals, and I am joined by another top player. I am joined by George Tifferman. How are you doing?
I'm good, Adi. I'm George. You might know me online as SudokuMaster. I've been playing VGC for a long, long time. I went to my first regional in 2012 when I was 11 years old in
Oh, wow.
elementary school. Yeah, most people don't realize that I've been playing that long, I don't think. It's been on and off again since then. I pretty much only play when I think I really enjoy the format. But I really only started taking it like super seriously in like Gen 7 around 2017, 2018. Um, and then I've cut my first regional in 2018. I think the same one as you, actually. Madison,
Yep,
right?
Madison 2018. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. I got top four. I think you got top eight.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But yeah, I quit during Dynamax because I despised it. I just really didn't like how it felt. But then once Worlds got invited, or I got announced for Yokohama and Dynamax is gone, I decided it's time to get back into things. And this is my first Scarlet Violet tournament, and it turns out really well. So I'm quite happy to be here, quite happy with how it went.
Yeah, you got ninth place, top 16 at what is the
Mhm.
biggest regional ever. Really impressive performance. 9-1 in Swiss too. So yeah, you're one place ahead of me on Victory Road. So
That's right.
you
That's right.
got
Off res.
yeah, yeah. And yeah, so and you used a really cool Dondozo team. And you mentioned that you didn't do a lot of team building back in the day, and you built this team yourself. So what changed?
So, in pretty much in 2017, I would build a lot, and I think I built this really good team with Brady Smith that he won a regional with. He won Memphis regionals with the Persian Mimilax team, and we worked on that like all post worlds together, and I was super proud of it. But I would always, I wouldn't place with it. Like Brady would win the regional, he'd get second place with it. I'd get like when it was the Mandibuzz version, I got like 10th at one. So I decided for a moment, like I'm gonna stop trying to build and I just want to focus on like honing my play. And the way that took form was I would just steal teams and just try and focus sheerly on just the play aspect. But I don't think in the long run it was a great thing because I stopped building and I came to realize like I had a lot of time to reflect during Dynamax because I wasn't playing. And I was like, I'm really missing out on a lot by just taking teams because numerous reasons, but besides like everyone knowing your team already by taking one that was previously placing at something, it's just a very fun, rewarding aspect of the game that I thought I was missing out on. And I also really like how you can tailor your own teams that you build to your playing preference. Like you look at an Edu team and it's so clearly an Edu team, like perfect
Hmm.
defensive synergy. You know he's going to try and pivot with it. You look at a Nils Dunlop team and you know it's going to force you to like make certain calls, and that's certainly the type of team that I like to play. So I build pretty read heavy teams that force you to make a lot of guesses. So going into Scarlet Violet, I was like, okay, I'm done stealing. I want to try and make something myself, tailored towards the way that I like to play, and I think it'll be better for me as a player in the long run.
Hmm. And that's a really interesting discussion. I know I've sort of had the same conversations with myself because, like last year, Alex and I built this really cool Caloric Size Pocket team, and Alex and Justin were popping off with it, and I was
Hmm.
getting pretty mediocre results. And then this year,
Yeah,
I cut two regionals just by stealing stealing teams from Nails, basically. And it's like okay, like really just focusing on playing well instead of trying to build, because I do think they are very different skills, but they're both very
yeah.
important to have. And
Hmm.
I think having that time where you're really focusing on improving your level of play and then coming back to the team building aspect, and then now knowing that okay, these issues that I'm having when I'm practicing, they're probably not my play. It's probably issues with the team that really helps you develop a team and optimize it and make it as good as it can be.
Yeah. And
Um,
I think it's so important as well, just like building like you want to be able to go into a tournament with something that you feel is a good call for the field. Like it's such a huge part of Pokemon and using a known team, it's you're basically a part of the field. You're part of the expected field at that point.
mhm.
And I think you're putting yourself at a disadvantage. Like I think the best players, like they combine the honing the play aspect and the innovation aspect, and that makes a champion. So that's what
Absolutely.
I want to focus on more.
Yep. And so, like you said, you ended up building this team that you got top 16 with, and you sent me
Hmm.
an image with all of the different all of the different iterations of this team. So talk me
Yes.
through your team building process.
So I didn't play Series 1 at all. I knew I wasn't going to San Diego, and I'm only really interested in playing if I have an event to prep for. It's just the way I am. So I knew that I might be able to go to Florida. I actually missed registration. I had to get in through late registration, but I wanted to go to Florida. So I was looking at the Series 1 teams, and I saw Palmot Dondozo, and it reminded me of Mimikyu Snorlax Persian, which I mentioned earlier, which is a team in 2017 that I loved because it doesn't play exactly the same, but you do have like a heavy setup mode with fake out support. And the way that the team is kind of structured is you have like that heavy offensive setup mode and like a more offensive kind of mode. Like the team that I built with Brady had like Scarf, Finny with Kartana in Persian. So you see the first version of the teams I built, it was just like very offensive mode and then Dondozo. And I thought it would really like suit the way I like to play because Palmot kind of lets you safely make reads, and then if you mess up, you can kind of save yourself with Revival's Blessing later. So I spent about 2 weeks on this team, just playing ladder. I played about 700 ladder games on the account. Big Snorlax fan, 69. I'm sure you ran into me if you were around the 1700s.
Yep.
Um, but anyway, so I played with Palmot for a while, and especially that second version of the team. I pretty much immediately I shot up to like 1800 on the ladder, getting to like fourth place at that point, I think, on the ladder. So I felt pretty great about it. But the problem is like it was just really, really hard to deal with like Iron Hands and Iron Bundle specifically with that composition because there's no speed control for the bundle. And if you look at my answers for Iron Hands, it's pretty much just either Dondozo with Earthquake or Fluttermane with Fairy moves. But the thing is, like, especially if they go Terra Grass, like it's so difficult. Like, just bundle Hands and Amoonguss, like especially together, like I just could not beat it. So I was thinking a lot about Palmot, and I still wanted to make it work because I didn't think that was the weak link in the team. I still thought it was really strong with Dondozo. So I saw that shortly after that, Marco Fierro like won or no, he got like I think top four in like a Limitless tour with a Palmot Dondozo team with Talonflame. So I was like, okay, I'll give this a try, and it just did not click with me. Um, One thing I want to mention is you'll notice my almost every iteration of these teams, all the moves are very accurate. There's no Iron Bundle anywhere to be seen because I clicked Hydro Pump in 2017. I clicked Heat Wave in 2018. I clicked Precipice Blades and Sleep Powder in 2019. I'm over it. I've lost way too many games to accuracy, so I wanted to use all accurate moves and hitting so many Will-O-Wisps with Talonflame just didn't gel with me and like it just didn't, sometimes Pokemon click with you, sometimes they don't. So I quickly put away the Talonflame version and I put on Dragonite because I thought like, oh, band extreme speed might help a little bit with bundle and it just hits everything really hard. Like it'll hit a Moongus really hard. It'll hit Iron Hands really hard. And once again, it worked well on ladder for a little bit. I shot back up to 1800, top 10, but then quickly fell off again, way down to like 1600, 1500, something like that. I just didn't think it was consistent enough. Um, so at that point, it's maybe a week before the tournament, and I'm panicking a little bit. So you can see I have a box that's just listed. It's got to be three of these guys, right? So I was thinking like some combo of these three are probably just the strongest I can make Palmot Dondozo. And I went to my friends, people like Emilio, James Beck, Z, and they were all like, yeah, I think the strongest three next to Palmot Dondozo is going to be Goldango and Tyranitar, Talonflame. Emilio specifically was like, I think Dondozo is still very strong. But the problem is you really need either Tailwind or Trick Room to deal with Bundle. Otherwise, Bundle just puts so much pressure on you because you can't move fast enough.
Hmm.
So I kind of said, okay, like Tailwind seems like the way to go. That's what most of the other Dondozos are doing. I'll try this version. Oh, and also another archetype that I was struggling with was Psyspam. Psyspam was a really, really difficult matchup for Dondozo just because they can set up Trick Room on you, and then they can Terra and just do so much damage before you can really get rolling with Dondozo. So that's why I put on Tyranitar. Um, so I once again I said like I just didn't really click with the Talonflame. Just didn't work for me. So I was thinking about what Amelia said. I was like, okay, Tailwind or Trick Room, and I was like, let's try Trick Room instead. I remembered that Wolf used Armarouge with his Dondozo team in Series 1, which is where this first version came from. Pretty much it's Wolf's exact team, but I put Brute Bonnet over Meowscarada because I just
Hmm.
think Brute Bonnet is very good. Um, and this version was relatively strong. Like I laddered with it some, and it seemed like it was clicking better with me than the Talonflame. So I was like, okay, I think Trick Room is strong. I don't think that the Scarf Annihilate is very good. Um, but I think this is about the way that I want to go. And then I also was like, okay, like I think Armarouge is just way more threatening if you have the Follow Me and the Psychic Terrain support from Indeedee, and I think if you have Indeedee, which gives you access to Expanding Force, then Sylveon, you don't really need it. Um, so now I just have this one slot left. I knew I wanted to hit Dark types, um, and I went back to Palmot actually for a moment. That's where the unknown slot was. But I tried a few things in that slot. I tried Annihilate, I tried Palmot, I tried Sylveon. I knew I just wanted to hit Dark types mostly. And then I went to my chat and I was like, guys, like, what do I put in this slot? And James Beck was like, dude, just put Iron Hands. Iron Hands is so good. It's so much better than Palmot. And it just makes way more sense with Trick Room also. So this was 2 days before the tournament that I finally had the final version with Iron Hands.
Hmm.
So this final version, I'm very proud of it. I think Iron Hands completed it immediately. I started laddering with it, and I hit 1830 one last time, one spot above my friend Stephen Mia, and that's when I knew I was ready. Um, the nicknames are SpongeBob themed, specifically SpongeBob side characters. I got quite a few compliments in the tournament run, so I think good nickname theme. Um, so pretty much like the way the team functions is, I think it's so strong because the Psyspam side of the team, it's good into Amoonguss, it's good into Iron Bundle, it's good into Iron Hands, and it's good into opposing Psyspam because I have Terra Dark Armarouge. And those are the four things that I struggled with the entire 2 weeks beating with Dondozo. I think generally, like, Indeedee and Armarouge aren't typically good supports for the Dondozo mode, which is why when I finished the final version of the team, Amelia was like, "Man, I thought about this, but like I just don't think it'll be that good because like you don't want to bring Armarouge next to Dondozo usually, and like you're making your Dondozo mode weaker." And I think that's true, but I think the side spam mode is so strong by itself, and you have to guess which mode that I'm going for that like the team's strong regardless, and I think Bonnet and Iron Hands are plenty good supports. And I did bring Armarouge next to Dondozo plenty as well, and it still worked.
Yeah.
Um,
I actually just recorded, and this is going to be coming out a little after your team report uh, with Angelo Hunter with Brian. Yeah, and he was saying
mm,
he also had Armarook Dondozo on his team, and he was saying, yeah, he led Armarook Dondozo a lot because both those two modes have very different counterplay, and your opponent almost has
mm,
to commit to one of them.
yeah.
And as soon as you see which mode they commit to, you can just switch to the other Pokemon and kind of run through the team that way.
I did not opt to lead them next to each other. I know maybe a few times throughout the run. I definitely did it a couple times. Mostly I would look at team preview and I would try and determine which one you're going to try and beat and then go with the other one.
Hmm.
So most commonly I would lead more like Iron Hands Dondozo or Indeedee. I wouldn't actually lead Indeedee Armarouge all that much. Maybe like a fifth of my total games. More commonly I'd lead something like Indeedee Bonnet was pretty strong. But typically I would either be going Dondozo, Iron Hands, Bonnet, and Tatsugiri together, or Armarouge and Didi, Bonnet, and Iron Hands. So typically there wasn't a lot of overlap between when I brought Armarouge Dondozo, and if I did, I would usually do something like lead in Didi Armarouge and then have the Dondozo mode in the back.
Hmm.
Um, but you absolutely can play it that way, leading in DDR Rouge and force the guessing games immediately. But I played most of my guessing games in Team Preview, I think.
Yeah, and I mean, all of your Pokemon, we saw like sort of these modes all over the tournament. Obviously, a lot of Dondozo. I
Mhm,
think we saw, was it? I think Ashton was using Brute Bonnet, Dondozo, and hold
mhm.
up, I have to pull up here. Yeah, Ashton was using it, and no, Carson wasn't. There was at least one more Brute Bonnet Dozo that did very well in this tournament. And then we saw like Ndidi Armor next to Iron Hands do very well. We saw Alex Underhill use that. We saw June use
Mhm.
that. And of course, Angelo Hunter used that as well. So a lot of that combination. Brute Bonnet, I think, was the standout for the tournament, and Dondozo was everywhere too. So all of these Pokemon play so well together that you can. It feels like you can kind of bring any of these modes together.
Yeah, I was quite surprised to see so many similar compositions, to be honest with you, because you didn't see stuff like Iron Hands Dondozo too much on the ladder. People would mostly opt for like different builds, and I laddered a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I laddered a lot in the 2 weeks leading up to it. So I was kind of surprised to see similar compositions to mine, but it made me feel like I figured it out. It made me feel just like I had the right ideas, like
Mm-hmm.
similar thoughts to other good players.
Yeah,
So yeah, I was validated. I was validated by seeing the other compositions.
yeah, absolutely, and of course you were validated with your result, of course, as well. Um,
Yes.
but talk me through the Pokemon themselves and why you chose to use these movesets and EV spreads that you did.
Okay, yeah, sure. So the Dondozo, I originally was running a rest set that Chupa Cross used because I was using a Palmot team. I just kind of stole his. My friends were just like, no, I think you should really be trying Substitute. Substitute is just so strong into a Moongus. And Garganacl. So I tried sub and I was like immediately like, yeah, this is so much better. You're sacrificing the mirror, you're sacrificing being able to rest in the face of opposing Dondozo. But I really liked leftovers sub, and sub just ended up being an extremely versatile move throughout the tournament. I was clicking it in the face of almost everything, like regardless of if they had Namungus or Garganacl. It just like makes the longevity of Dozo so strong and punishes passive leads, like opposing Trick Room, for example. Like I could lead Dondozo Iron Hands and like fake out sub. Um, as for the EV spread, I wanted to add a little bit of SPDEF just for opposing bundle. I sacrificed some speed for that. I think if I was going to run this again, I'd probably add one more speed stat to my Dondozo to outspeed Sandy Shocks after the boost. Um, because I was like, oh, I think just base 100s should be fast enough to outspeed because I'm not really afraid of Palmot. Palmot had kind of fallen off, and I thought if I fought it, it would have like be under Tailwind anyway. And that was kind of my logic for Shocks too. But I did end up fighting a Shocks, and I kind of wish I had the extra speed stat there. The attack stat is just to two hit KO 4 HP bundle after the boost with Earthquake. But other than that, it's just a dump into SPDEF. I also think Earthquake is a great move. People have been dropping it for Wave Crash now, and I think Wave Crash is very valuable. Like if you, especially if you're just using Dondozo to make good trades for what you have in the back. But I think Earthquake is just it cleans up so well, and it's so threatening. You don't have to play Follow Me mind games. Like I really like Earthquake.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the Tatsugiri, I would focus Sash. I think most in cut were Scarf. Um, I really like Sash. I think I was running Scarf for the majority of my testing because I had the Sash on Palmot. But once I dropped Palmot and I put Sash on Giri, I was like, this is so much better. Like this makes Tatsugiri an actual Pokemon that you can pivot with, and just play more safely with because you have the security of the Sash. And Taunt was incredible. Taunt is so good for shutting down like mid game of Moongus and other things. Taunt's such a versatile move. Like it comes up all the time, kind of like sub, more than you would even plan to use it. So I really liked Taunt. Muddy Water is the only inaccurate move on this team, which I'm very happy about because as I mentioned, I've clicked a lot of inaccurate moves in my time as a player, and I've come to realize like if you can play a viable archetype without having them on your team, you might as well do so. Um, so anyway, yeah, Muddy Water and Draco Meteor are kind of required. I'm Terra Dragon because just to get the late game Draco Meteor kills to secure things sometimes. I think I might have clicked it once the whole tournament. Um, My Iron Hands is, I'm gonna be honest with you, I have no idea what the CV spread does. I made it the night before the tournament in Brady Smith's house, and I do not know what it does, but it was great. It was really good. I went min speed, which I regret. I thought I'd gonna be playing under trigger most of the time with it, so I might as well go min speed and also get the slow volt switch. Um, but in actuality, I think faster would have been nice so I can fake out Trick Room next to Armor Rouge and fake out other fake out users with sub. And then I get slow volt switch under Trick Room anyway. So I think if I would do it over again, I'd probably add speed to the Iron Hands, especially because like getting faked out by opposing Gothitelle just did not feel good.
Hmm.
Um, Armor Rouge, I ran some quick calcs for, but I decided 252 was very sufficient. It's what I tested with, so I thought it was pretty okay, and I just didn't want to sacrifice any offense. Same with Indeedee, it's very simple, 252 max defense, which came up very clutch in my top 32 set because I tanked like a Brady's choice band Terror Blast from Dragonite, I think, flying, and like every time just it made that set playable. So max defense, very good. And then finally is the bonnet. So I went, I think this speed was just to try and outspeed most Iron Hands. And the EV spread was to live close combat from Tusk and to kill back with a loaded dice um, Bullet Seed. Bullet Seed also always gets both Bundle and Fluttermane with only 4 hits off of a Bullet Seed, which is great. Loaded Dice is the best item. Don't run Citrus. Loaded Dice rules. It's just so good for like opposing Dondozo too, because they'll set up sub and then you can still do so much damage after breaking the sub. I
Hmm.
just really like it. I love Bullet Seed, and I also went Protect, which I think most bonnets forego. But I just think Protect is so valuable in open sheet. Like it just makes so many more mind games even possible, and I really didn't feel comfortable having only like one Protect on my non-Dondozo mode. So I put Protect on there, and I never regretted it. And it made like a few matches also. It won it for me.
Yeah, definitely. No, I like the Brick Bonnet set a lot. I think loaded dice is actually just really good. And
So
it just makes
good.
it so you have this like super powerful stab. I think it's stronger than Life Orb Seed Bomb. I'm not 100% sure on that, but like yeah, it's very powerful. And this mod has a crazy attack stat and Spore. It's just a better Breloom.
Hmm.
And then yeah, like I Brick Bonnet is a Pokemon that has so many moves it wants to run. Like obviously you're cutting things like Sucker Punch and Rage Powder, but yeah, no, having that protect is also just so good in so many different situations. I think I had like 5 protects on my team, and it definitely came up all the time to just to have the option to force a mind game at any given time and stop your opponent from getting these really safe plays into you.
Yeah, I think in general, I loved how this team played in open sheet. This was my one of my first open sheet tournaments because I only played like one of the Players Cups because, like I said, I didn't play most of Gen 8,
Mm-hmm.
so I was just getting used to it as we played the tournament. I also played like my only open sheet practice was on ladder with people that would decide to open sheet. Um, so like but I generally I just love how this team plays in open sheet because you can immediately see all of their counterplay for both the Trick Room mode and for the Dondozo mode. You can see whether or not the Amoonguss has Clear Smog. You can see if the Arcanine has Safety Goggles. You can see if it has Snarl. You can see if the Talonflame is Covert Cloak. It's just so it makes your mode so much more potent because you know exactly which holes to punch. Like I fought quite a few Volcaronas and Dragonites, and knowing if they had Struggle Bug or Ice Spinner, or what their Terra type was is just so valuable. I think this team would be so much weaker without Open Sheet, but Open Sheet makes it excellent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Like you said, you want to play in a way where you're constantly exerting pressure on your opponent, and when you have the knowledge of where their protects are and where their counterplay is, that does mean that you can be a lot more proactive about how you're attacking them.
Exactly, yeah.
So yeah, that definitely makes a lot of sense. And with was there anything that in hindsight you would change about the team, having played 16 sets or something with it?
Um, I think besides the speed on the Iron Hands, which I mentioned. I think it's worth playing with the Armor Rouge item. I really liked Safety Goggles. It was great for me throughout the run. But it just depends on how many Amoonguss you play. Like I only played a couple of Amoonguss. Like it was perfect and wonderful in testing, and it made the team so much stronger. But I know Waka, a good friend of mine, he had like Covert Cloak, which was really good for Snarl.
Mhm.
And you can also just run Life Orb. But this set, this Terra Dark safety goggles set, it was actually great. It was great for me because James Beck suggested it to me because like I said, I was struggling to beat Psyspam with my Dondozo. So he was like, well, just put on Terra Dark safety goggles Armor Rouge and that'll win the mirror. And it did win the mirror for me, as you'll see in my run section. But it's worth playing with that. Other than that, I think the team's pretty solid. I like how it is. I think it'll get a little less strong after this tournament because of things like Gothitelle make it pretty hard to run, and Parish is hard to run, or hard to play into. But I think if it gets weaker, it'll just be the types of teams becoming more popular as opposed to the sets. So I wouldn't change much about it.
Yeah. And then you talked about some of your game plans earlier, but were there any teams that you had very specific game plans for, or any modes that you really like to run?
You see, most tournaments I usually do, like I saw in Kyle's report, he had like a whole document where he's like, when I play this archetype, I'm going to lead this, and then I'm going to have this in the back. I almost do that for every tournament that I go to. But this one, I didn't do that at all. Because maybe it's because I laddered so much that I just knew what to do innately, or it's because this team is pretty free flowing and you can move most of the pieces the way you want to. But I think throughout a best of three, I would usually go both modes. So I didn't have very set game plans into anything. Like I said, you're going to want to bring Iron Hands next to Dozo as a lead, or Iron Hands Bonnet with Dozo in the back, or Psyspam as a lead, or Indeedee Bonnet as a lead. But generally, that there were not set game plans with this team in most cases, so I can't really speak to that. But generally, if you stick to those general ideas and play around with it, I think you'll be good.
Hmm. That makes sense. Yeah, like I said, I think all these pieces work so well together that there is a lot of flexibility in your modes. Um, and yeah, so with that, let's talk about your tournament. You had a really strong. You had 9-1 and had a really strong resistance. So you played a lot of really good players. Tell me about your tournament run.
Yeah, so I first of all, I did not expect to do this well. I was very happy to go 9-1. My previous best record at a tournament was 6-1, and I've never done well at a tournament that was this many rounds. Like I've never done well at like NAIC. Like at Dallas 2020, I went like 7-3. I was just hoping to get points. And when I saw my round one was Justin Burns, I was like, oh man, like like what a way to start. Like this is gonna be difficult. Um, so let's talk about Justin first. So first of all, I had to sit across from Justin for like an hour and a half. Maybe not. Maybe like an
Yeah.
hour. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know. Because we were waiting for the sheets to get printed, and it took just forever. Within that time, I went to the bathroom like twice. I played some PS games on my phone. I played some Luminous on my Switch. I went and talked to people. I just just trying to pass the time and not thinking about losing to Justin Burns. So when it came time to play Justin Burns, I got extremely lucky. I got so lucky, and I'm sure that you heard about it
Yeah.
because I'd be talking to people throughout the day. I'd be like, "Yeah, man, like I played Burns and I got so lucky. Like I got really lucky, but I'm happy I won." And they would be like, "Oh yeah, like I heard about that." So I know he was complaining. He had to be complaining if they heard about it.
He was kind of salty. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure he was. He did not look happy. He did not look happy after I played him. So specifically, what happened? Let's look at this team. This team is a nightmare for me to play because like you're locked into like so you can't really go Dozo. You can go Dozo, but it's very difficult to go Dozo into Parish Song. Like, it's just really tough. And Parish Song next to Bundle and Amoonguss, it's just so hard to realistically Dozo that. So I right off the bat, I'm like, I think I have to try and side spam this. But I knew he was just going to lead Arcanine next to Gothitelle and click Snarls, but I couldn't stop it. Like I just really didn't think I had a better plan than that. Like I couldn't even go like Indeedee Bonnet and go for like follow me spores on things because he had Taunt Gothitelle and Safety Goggles Arcanine. I knew it was just going to be a nightmare. And I had no idea what Justin was going to run until I saw team preview, but I felt so stupid because as soon as I saw team preview, I remembered that he won that Limitless tour with Parrish. And I was like, man, like if I just thought about that, I could have at least tried to game plan this during like that 1 hour I was playing Showdown.
Hmm.
Um, so anyway, I just lead Psyspam against him, and he does lead the Arcanine Gothitelle and just starts clicking snarls. And game one, I crit the Arcanine with an expanding force like right off the bat, and it just died. So I was like, okay, like I guess, like I'll take it. Like in the back, he just had a Moongaze, and I think like Fluttermane, and like he just couldn't stop the side spam after that. And game two, he did try to do the same thing, but I think I dodged Snarl, and I went for like kind of a crazy read, because like he went for like Terra Dark into the Arcanine like on the turn that I went for maybe Helping Hand Armor Cannon, so I felt pretty good about that. And I got rid of the Arcanine, and then he brought in Bundle, and he like misses Hydro Pump into like my Bonnet. Like I got so lucky, but I do think I played well. I got very, very lucky, but I did make some nice reads on his protects to close both games, and I did read his Terra Dark. So I felt happy about the way I was playing, and that I beat a hard matchup in spite of the luck, but I absolutely needed the luck to win. So we take those. We take those.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is the team that Nails and I ran and cut with as well. So we were pretty familiar, and Justin was very unhappy in our little group chat. But yeah, that is this was a matchup that was straight up impossible with that Gothitelle, and then Gothitelle completely flips it. And I think that between the three of us, we lost to a lot of size spam this tournament. So
Mm.
it might not have been enough, honestly. But yeah, no, specifically, I think it sounds like you made the reads that you had to, like especially calling the Arcanine Terra Dark is really big. That's a really important play that you can make. But also,
Mm.
yeah, it sounds like game one was kind of not a
Yeah.
game.
I got so lucky. I will say two things.
Hmm.
After I won the set, I was like, "Hey man, like I know I got so lucky, like best, better luck in the rest of the tournament." And he was like very mad, and he's like, fine, just win out. I did. Okay, I went 9-1. I helped my res the best I could, Justin. And
Hmm.
two, what goes around comes around because years ago in 2017, I played Justin at a regional, and he flinched me with Waterfall as I was going for either Belly Drum or Trick Room on my Mimilax mode. So it was not as terrible as I lucked him this time, but hey, what goes around comes around.
Hmm. Hmm. 6 years later, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Um,
So.
so after that, I played. I guess I'll mention quickly. Like I lost to a Talonflame Tusk team with Moon, which is it's just difficult. And to add insult to injury, like I kind of lost this set on like a misclick a little bit, sort of. I just didn't go for Terra like Fairy on my Bonnet the turn. Like he went for acrobatics into it, and it would have been a really big spore. And then after that, like my mental was just shook, and then I was like misclicking more in like game two. I joked with my friends after, like, if this set was on Showdown, like, I might have won. But I wasn't used to playing in game yet because this is like literally my first game of Sword and Shield was round one.
Hmm.
I'd only played on Showdown. Um, so then I was 2-1, and then I won some more matches. And then my next like known player, or like my next like very accomplished player that I ran into was Chongjun Ping. Um, Chongjun, like Justin, I'd also lost to the previous time that we played. I lost to Chongjun at I think it was his first regional in 2019. He ended up cutting with Xerneas, Lunala, and I was playing Psyspam. And it was like a really close set with a hard matchup, and he just got the better end of it. So I was excited to get the rematch against him, and it was a Dondozo mirror. So the way that this one went was like I think game one we both kind of tried to Dondozo each other. We I think he brought like Volcarona, Bonnet, Dondozo, and I brought Iron Hands, Bonnet, Dondozo. And I kind of I like brought out Tatsugiri first, tried to get some damage on the board, and then like he had the late game Dondozo. And I think I was going to win, but I ended up like punching the Volcarona with my Iron Hands, and he got a burn on it. So I lost game one. Sucks. So game two, I was like, this is still, this matchup is very size spammable because he, He does have struggle bug on Volcarona, but I think if I play it well, like I can still get around it and position Iron Hand's Bonnet under Trick Room to beat his Dondozo. And I managed to do that, and I won game two pretty cleanly. So finally going into game three, I was like, all right, I think I want to go back to the Dozo mode, and we'll see how it goes. So I just remember that like he brought out Flutter early, and I brought out Bonnet early, and I managed to get a little bit of damage on his Dondozo and KO his Flutter main, while he KO'd my Bonnet and did not damage my Dondozo. And then we both brought out Tatsugiri, and we had the Dozo versus Dozo sitting match. So I thought that I was up, I had the better hand of it because like I knew that by that point, if you have the same amount of Pokemon, it goes by HP advantage. And I knew that he KO'd my Bonnet, which has way more HP than Fluttermane, but my Dondozo was healthier than his Dondozo. And I had a full health Iron Hands in the back. Well, I think he probably had King Gambit. I never saw it because it went to time. He either had King Gambit or Volcarona. So I thought I had more HP. And I was like, well, we're just going to sit here now and play till timer. And we were the last match that finished. We were one of the top tables, and we just sat there. I was clicking attacks while he clicked protect. I took my sweet time clicking all my moves, let it run to timer. We had a judge watching us. And then it went to time. Said, you defeated Chongjun. I did a little, yeah. And I celebrated with no audience because everyone else had finished their matches and were off waiting for the next round.
Mhm.
So that was my match against Chongjun. I was very happy to win that one. And then what was my record at that point? Like,
That was
I
round
think
seven, so 6-1.
I was 6-1. Okay. Um, then I played another Psyspam team, and he just couldn't touch Dark Armor Rouge, which was wonderful. And then I ran into Kyle. Kyle's a really good friend of mine, and I played him previously at a 2019 regional. Um, and I was a little scared of his team because Volcarona and Dragonite can pressure Psyspam, and Volcarona can also pressure Dondozo a lot, especially if it's Terra Grass and has Will-O-Wisp. But he was not Terra Grass, and he did not have Will-O-Wisp, and he got just really run over by my Dondozo. He said his matchup was Baby Doll Eyes Mousehold, but I had Psychic Terrain to stop that. Um, I don't even think I brought Indeedee one of the games, but like pretty much all I remember from this match was like positioning Dondozo well and then just killing everything, and then it was a very quick 2-0. And then I was in cut. I was in cut at 8-1. I was very happy.
Hmm.
And then I played Ian. This team was insane. Um, Ian, Ian was also a lot of like the players that I played were players that I'd run into at previous tournaments. Maybe it's just because I've been to too many tournaments at this point. But this team's insane. This team's
Hmm.
so scary because he's got the Tyranitar for the Psyspam and he's got the Haze for the Dozo. But we're both 8-1 and we both have great resistance. So there's no pressure here. There's no pressure on this match, and I just played insane. Like he even had safety goggles armor like in DD, but I just remember like reading the turns that he would try and reverse the trick room and just going really crazy with Brute on it. I don't remember exactly what happened, but my third eye opened this set, and I managed to take him down with Psyspam Iron Hands Bonnet, and I was really happy to win this set, even though like it didn't really matter.
Hmm. Well, a bunch of A2s miscut, so it's nice to have that security, even though it sounds like you
Yeah,
had
yeah,
pretty good resistance. Having Justin Burns on your resistance will do that to you. Um,
yeah. I felt pretty good about my res, but it did feel good. It
yeah,
felt very
it's
good on
always
security.
a good feeling to beat a good player like Ian McLaughlin.
Yeah.
So yeah, so then you were in cut, you were in top 32, and,
Yes.
and so okay, so I've mentioned this in my report and on Twitter, but we got out of the venue that night at like 11:30 or something like that, and we need to
Yes.
be
Yeah.
back at 7:45 a.m.
Yeah.
How was that night for you, and did you like get any prep done?
I got no prep done. I remember being in that venue. I was like, it was 11:30, like you said, and they tell us we have to get back at 7:45, and the silence is deafening. It was so funny. Like no one said anything. It was just like, are you kidding me?
Hmm.
You've got to be kidding me that we have to get back here at 7:45. I said something like, man, this is some Florida bullshit. Um, but anyway, so I'm playing Brady the next day is all I know. And Brady, like I've mentioned, great friend of mine. I'm staying at his house. Uh, he also, okay, what's crazy is that he didn't even go back to his house. I went back to his house to sleep for the night. He ended up staying at like a hotel because he like went out to eat with people and didn't want to have to drive back and get like 2 hours of sleep. So he stayed at somebody's hotel while I stayed at his house. Um, and we didn't prep. Maybe Emilio did. I was staying with Waka and Emilio, who were also in cut the next day. And I said, like, listen, I'm too tired. I played 10 rounds. Like, I'm just not going to worry about it. I've got like a 40-minute car ride to the venue the next day, and then we're probably going to have to sit for another hour during hack check. I'm just going to do my prep then. And just try and sleep. And I actually did manage to sleep. I slept on the floor for maybe 5, 6 hours, and I felt good. Felt good enough to play the next day. Um, and then I did exactly what I said I did. We like sat for an hour while we got hack checked again, and then I was on my laptop doing calcs by
Mhm.
myself. The other reason I didn't prep was Brady's a mutual friend with my friend group, and so no one wanted to help me,
Mhm.
which is respectable. Like I wasn't gonna help any of them. Like if I was in the same position, I wouldn't help a friend prep against Brady.
Right.
Um, so it was all I was on my own, and I looked at this team and I was quite scared because Gothitelle can be difficult, and Garganackle can also be scary. And I'd played Brady a lot on ladder with the Palmot version, and I would usually lose to the Garganackle. Like I would just try and Dondozo it, and then he would just like be able to get off he would just cycle fake outs and things with Iron Hands like while the Salt Cures went off, and I would just never beat him. So I'm like trying to think in my head like how I can go about doing this because Psyspam's also hard because he has Ice Spinner Dragonite next to Shadow Tag. So the best idea that I came up with was I think I can just try and go in DD Bonnet and just follow me Spore things, and then I can spore the Dragonite if he leads that. I can hit it. Maybe like predicting going for a switch there. Kind of leave the Gothitelle alone because I don't super care about taunts if the Pokemon are sleeping already. Um, so it pretty much the set went almost exactly the way I expected. Where he did lead Gothitelle Dragonite and I did lead Indeedee Bonnet. And turn one, he just went for the Terra Blast onto my Indeedee as I went for Follow Me, the Terra Blast taunt. It lived it on like 30 HP. I spored the Dragonite. And then from there, I don't remember all the exact plays, but it was like a really clean game, and I just managed to get rid of his threats and win with like a 3-mon advantage. Um, so game two, I was like, okay, I don't think he's just going to do that again. I think he's probably going to mix it up, and I'm just going to try and go Indeedee Armor Rouge this time. He did not. He just went for Gothitelle Dragonite again, and I don't remember exactly what happened, but I remember I couldn't break the Garganackle because he went for Terra Ghost in the end game, and I think he got rid of my bonnet. Just Terra Ghost was really hard to break because I wouldn't have like I'd have Iron Hands in the back, and like if I didn't have bonnet to do enough damage, it was tough. And I didn't force the Terra out of the Dragonite the turn one, like I did in game one. So I lost game two cleanly, and then game three, Brady goes to the bathroom. So I'm sitting there game planning. Once again, we're the last match because he's playing Garganackle and it takes forever. Um, and I'm like talking to the judge. I'm like, man, like Brady, this guy's been beating me since we were like 14. Because I met Brady at a local when we were both 14 in VGC 14. And I'd never beat him in a tournament before. Like I lost at Worlds 2015. I lost at a regional in 2017. I lost at locals when we were children. And then the judge is like, "Hey man, like, well, you're doing pretty good. This match has been really close." And I was like, "Yeah, I'm doing my best." So Brady gets back from the bathroom, and I've decided that like my best game plan is just to do what I did game one. And I lead Indeedee Bonnet, and he leads Gothitelle Dragonite for the third time, and it's a repeat of game one, where he goes for the Terror Blast and the taunt into my Indeedee while I spore the Dragonite. So I'm happy with that because game one I won very cleanly. But this time he gets the one turn wake up on the Dragonite, like the next turn or
Mhm.
whatever, like in the following turns, and just cleanly OHKOs my Bonnet, which is just the worst because now I'm at a 2 to 4 mon disadvantage, where I have Armor Rouge, Iron Hands in the back, and he has like Dragonite, Iron Hands, Garganicle, and Gothitelle remaining. And I'm like, we actually shook hands after that because like once the one turn wake happened and the bonnet died, I was like, this is over. Like I can't win. Um, but then like I'm looking at the board and I'm like, you know what? Like Armor Rouge is a really good Pokemon, and like the front two mons are chipped. I might be able to do this. Um, I wish I remembered exactly what happened. I think he actually switched into Iron Hands and it just took a ton of damage from Expanding Force. But what I do remember is that like in the late game, I had to make a just a ton of Protect reads, a ton of Protect reads to try and stay alive with Drain Punch with my Iron Hands as it was getting chipped by Salt Cure, in order to like eventually take down the Garganackle. Um, and it comes down to I make one of the final correct protect reads. I punch the Gothitelle. I recover just a little bit of HP while the Garganackle protects, and my Iron Hand lives on 1 HP. Just it takes the last Salt Cure, lives on 1 HP, and I'm like yes. And then he doesn't get Don't Protect. I get the Drain Punch off. It kills the Garganackle from like 60% HP, and I'm like let's go. I finally beat Brady. I finally beat my demon.
Hmm.
And we shook hands, and then I immediately had to play top 16 because we were the last match.
Yep. But that's still a really big win against against someone who you apparently haven't beaten before. It's crazy because it sounds like he hasn't played a lot the last 8 or 9 years.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, being from the same region and like being friends, like I would always run into him for some reason. Like
Hmm.
it's just, it is what it is.
Yeah, and you finally got the best of him, and then you had to play another very good player in James Evans the next round.
Yes, yeah. So this match was a heartbreaker, but I'm not too upset about it. Let's look at the team. I noticed immediately when looking at the team sheet. I had no prep time. Even he did have some prep time because we took so long, I assume. But I looked at the team sheet and I immediately noticed that the Dragonite was not Ice Spinner, so I thought maybe I could Psy Spam him. But the thing is, like Tusk just in general applies a lot of pressure to Psy Spam, along with Gothitelle, and I also just Indeedee can just kind of sit there and tank hits while yawning things. But I thought he was a little weak to Dondozo, so I went ahead and led Dondozo Iron Hands, and I went for like Volt Switch Substitute or something like that. And like I let my Iron Hands take like a ton of damage uh from Hyper Voice in order to get my Tatsugiri in, and then Steel Dozo just ran over him. Like I think I just made a lot of the right protect plays. I don't remember exactly, but game one was very clean, and he just got run over, and I didn't go Psy Spam, so I assumed that he would not bring Tyranitar in game two. He did not bring it in he didn't bring it in game one, and I didn't bring any of my psychics. So
Hmm.
I was like, oh, he probably won't bring it again. This time I'll try leading Psy Spam, and I'll bring Dondozo in the back because Dondozo did so well in game one. So this game, he actually did bring Tyranitar, and so he leads Gothitelle Sylveon again, and I lead Psyspam, and he just switches in the Tyranitar, and I'm like, oh, that sucks. It is what it is. That sucks. But I think it ended up being mostly okay because I think I killed the Gothitelle, which let me eventually get my Dondozo in. And my Dondozo was sitting real pretty. He was sitting real pretty, and he was looking like might lock this game. But he's like against the Tyranitar, and the T-Tar I think he gets a crit and then two crunch drops. And I was just like, no, man, like, no, like I was just on the way to top 16 or to top 8. But like I said, with luck in VGC, what goes around comes around, Mr. Justin Burns. So my luck caught up to me, and it's okay. So going into game three, I was like, I still like my matchup here. I think it's going to be okay. And I made a crazy prediction because I was like, I think he's just going to do the same thing again. I think he's just going to lead Sylveon Gothitelle again. And if he doesn't, I think this lead is still fine. I just led Dondozo Geary straight up, which I never do.
Hmm.
It's because it's so committal. Um, but I did that because I was like, if I do that, he immediately threatens like fake out yawn, and that's so obvious, and it's so obvious that I'm just going to protect there. So I thought he was just very obviously going to go for like a trick room yawn. So I lead Yeah, so I lead Tatsugiri, Dondozo, and my read's exactly correct. So he goes for Trick Room Yawn, while I go for Substitute instead of protecting on the fake out Yawn. And I'm like, okay, this is real nice. Like, once again, like I'm set up to win this game. But then I'm just, I'm already thinking about top eight at this point, which is the worst thing you can do. Um, so like I just play really poorly for the rest of the game. Like I didn't stall the trick room turns with protects. Like I once I realized I wasn't doing that, I was like, what am I doing? Like this is just gonna let him get another yawn off. Whereas like if I'm protecting like every other turn, then he wouldn't be able to get a yawn off because it's really hard to break the steel dozo sub
Hmm.
with Gothitelle and Sylveon. Um, so eventually he yawns me, and it's whatever. He gets rid of the dozo, but I'm still pretty sitting real pretty with my iron hands and my bonnet in the back. Well, he has like, I think like Tusk, Tyranitar, and I think what happens is like he has to make two calls. I think he has to make a read on like which one he protects, and then he had to make a read on which one I protected, or something like that, or like whether or not I protected with my bonnet. And I made both calls incorrectly, and he made both of them, and he pops off so hard because he's James Evans,
Hmm.
which that's how it goes. I've done it too. I don't blame you, James, but it did not feel good. Um, but it's okay. Like I was pretty happy with my result regardless, and I would have played Toller in top eight, which would have been very hard because once again it was. Did he have Parrish on his team? Can you check for me?
Um, he did not.
Or was
No.
he just okay? Well, still, I think like Talon, Tusk, Tyranitar puts a lot of pressure on this team,
Hmm.
and also helps and bundle. It's. I think this would have been pretty difficult to navigate. Like not unwinnable, but it's hard. So I wasn't too upset to lose right before getting there. And like I knew like the fashion that I lost to James Evans in was like I got very unlucky one game and like I choked the other one. So like I wasn't too upset with like I knew I could have beaten him. So I wasn't like I was just lost. Like because the one thing you don't want to come out of a set with is like, oh, I didn't even know what I could have done there. Because then like that feels like a player skill difference as opposed to just like, oh, well, I might get him next time. As opposed, you know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? Like I was satisfied with my result in spite of a heartbreaker. So
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you got ninth place at the biggest regional ever, ninth out of like 780 players, something crazy like that. So a
mhm.
really, really impressive result with a the very cool take on Dondozo and yeah, and so of course we've got the rental code on screen right now. The paste will be in the description down below if you want to try it out. Um, but yeah, do you have any like shout outs or final words that you want to give?
Yeah, so first I just want to say I'm just so happy with this result because like at the end of 2019, like I really started to really figure things out. I felt like I was finally getting there as a player because I was starting to put some consistent results together, and then Dynamax happened, and I just didn't want to play anymore. So it's for that to finally end and for me to come back to a tournament and do so well, like I feel like I'm proving to myself, like okay, like I was starting to figure things out, and now I can start getting cooking.
Hmm.
And Also, like I was thinking I might just step away from the game entirely, like after Gen 8 until Worlds got announced for Yokohama. So this is a really good start for that. So I'm feeling really good team wise, play wise. And In terms of shout outs, I got to shout out Gaspacho, which is my friend group. Specifically, Emilio and James helped me with sets on the team. I got to shout out Waka for finally cutting his first regional with a team that had four out of the same mons as me, which is no coincidence. I suggested it to him like the day before or something like that. I got to shout out Brady for letting me stay at his house. Um, and I guess that's it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, congratulations again. It sounds like you are, yeah, you're feeling good about yourself. I look forward to seeing you in day two at Knoxville Regionals, I assume. Um,
Of course, of course.
yeah, and then we can get you back on the channel after that. But
Sure.
yeah, it's yeah, no, it feels. Speaking from experience too, it feels really good to get that result, the top 16 at such a huge regional, so such a long grueling experience then, and you
Mhm.
played so well across. You had what you finished 10-2. That's a crazy record. That's like cutting internet's record. Like, it's,
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, again, congratulations again, and definitely recommend that you try out this team. It seems like it's a really really strong team with a lot of flexible options. One of the stronger Dondozo teams out there right now. And yeah, thank you all for watching. And until next time, I will see you guys all later.